ידיר הכל, מי יברך הכל, מי גדול הכל, מי תגמול הכל. הוא יברך ערך הקטן ואת הכלה.
May the one who is supreme in power, blessing and glory, bless our Chatan and our Kala, Joseph and Laura Young. V'rastich li be'olam, v'rastich li be'tzedek, u'b'mishpat, u'b'chesed, u'b'rachamim, v'rastich li be'emunah, v'yadat et Adonai. I will betroth you to me forever. I will betroth you to me with righteousness, with justice, with love, and with compassion. I will betroth you to me with faithfulness, and you shall love Adonai. Let's start everyone to have a seat. Just a few short months ago, the two of you gathered together in the presence of your family and friends, consecrated your love for each other, and consecrated your life together, sharing together in all of life's joys, and yes, in all of life's sorrows. And now, these few months later, you continue your devotion to each other, and you continue to nurture and expand upon the promise of that very first hour as bride and groom. It's a special joy that the two of you can be here together today in front of this ark, the same ark that your parents and your aunt and uncle were married in front of not too long ago. A person of wisdom once wrote, "My soul takes pleasure in three things, for they are beautiful to God and to all people. Take pleasure in harmony among brothers and sisters, friendship among neighbors, and a husband and wife that are suitable to one another." There's a rabbinic teaching, there's a midrash, that since the days of creation, God, Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Almighty One, has been keeping himself busy. By doing what? But by matching couples together, by matching young men and young women to come together as bride and groom. There's a saying that finding a pair that is suitable for each other, that can overcome anything that is thrown at them, is as difficult for God as was splitting of the Red Sea, as it's an act that's comparable to one of the greatest miracles that has ever happened throughout our history. And in many ways, your relationship, Joe and Laura, has proved as a perfect symbol to that. And that from meeting, as you did at a nifty convention in high school, and finding in sometimes all the ways that have come up that might have been in the way. Maybe it was the too many other young girls at the pizza place who were vying for Joe's attention. Maybe it was spending your time together at the University of Florida in Gainesville and having all that Gainesville has to offer that allowed you to come together, but in some ways kept you apart. Maybe sometimes it was that call of law school, going all the way to New Orleans. That was also something that was coming in the way. But finally, even after all of the somethings had finally gone away, that ability and that confidence to know that someone is right for you and that you are right for each other, and that confidence to move to Pensacola so that you can be close to each other, and then to be together and to finally come together as in marriage, I think proves the lesson of this teaching. That when God does set aside a young man and a young woman for each other, there is nothing that can come between them. And watching the two of you sharing your wedding those few months ago, and now gathering together again here today, we know that once again, a great miracle has happened. Those few months ago, the two of you entered into an agreement that is signified by a ketubah here, And the two of you entered an agreement that reads, V'sheni v'shavat v'shiva yamim l'chodesh Sivan shenat chameshet alafim v'shva ma'ot shivim v'chamesh l'vriyat olam l'minyan she'anu monim kan b'Pensacola, Florida b'medinat America hatzfonit ba'u b'vrit hanisuin hechatan Yosef Tuvia ben B'Tzalel Chaim HaKohen Be'ita Yehudit V'Hakala Leora Alice Bat Tumas V'Keren Amar Hechatan LaKala Haveli Le'isha Kedash Moshe V'Yisrael Ve'amra Hakala L'Hechatan Hayeli Le'ish Kedash Moshe V'Yisrael. On the second day of the week, the seventh day of the month of Sivan, in the year 5775, corresponding to the 24th day of May in the year 2015, the Holy Covenant of Marriage was entered into here in Pensacola, Florida, in North America, between the groom, Joseph Terrence Young, son of Iris and Charles, and the bride, Laura Elise Denheiser, daughter of Karen and Thomas. And the groom said to the bride, Be thou consecrated to me as my wife, according to the tradition of Moses in Israel, and I shall treasure you and respect you with honor and devotion, as is customary among Jewish men who have loved and cherished their wives throughout the ages. And the bride said to the groom, Be thou consecrated to me as my husband, according to the tradition of Moses in Israel, and I shall treasure you and respect you with honor and devotion, as is customary among Jewish women who have loved and cherished their husbands through the ages. And as we share life's everyday experiences, we promise to strive for an intimacy that will enable us to express our innermost thoughts and feelings, to be sensitive at all times to each other's needs, to share life's joys and to comfort each other through life's sorrows, to challenge each other to achieve intellectual and physical fulfillment, as well as spiritual and emotional tranquility. We also promise to establish a home committed to our Jewish heritage and linked eternally to the community of Israel, a home filled with respect for all people, a home filled with love, learning, compassion, and integrity, and all of this is valid and binding. And when you entered into this agreement these few months ago, you symbolized this by making an acquisition and by presenting the ketubah. The ketubah is actually presented from the groom Joe to your wife Laura. So I'll ask again if you still agree to the terms of that has been set out in this ketubah. I'll ask you to hand this ketubah to your wife. And as Laura accepts the ketubah, she again agrees that she has agreed to all the terms set out forth. At any chuppah, under any wedding canopy, it's customary to recite the Sheva Brachot, the 7 blessings that consecrate the two of you to one another, just as Adam and Eve were consecrated to each other in the Garden of Eden. Just as the original couple that God set out and paired together, we evoke much of the imagery of the Garden of Eden in celebrating any wedding as we do here today. I'll ask Chazan Holzer to chant a version of our Sheva Brachot.
Bahar Shevara Polikpovna Vasher Yatzai Adam Etzamo Etzelan Demutavnito Vihimlo Mimen Binyan Adeyad Uktuva Tach Lashutzio Usamecha Bebaneha Usameach Rima Uvim Kasher Simach Yeditzra Begane Eden Mikedem Uvaras Asam Besimcha Chatan Mechala Hilarina Ditza Bechedva Ahava V'Achava V'Shalom V'Reihut Mehira Yishama B'Rei Yehuda U'Bechutzon Yerushalayim Kol Mitzalachatanim Baruch Misameach Tzion b'maneha.
Praise is the one whose glory is evident in all creation, who created male and female in the divine image, that together they might perpetuate life, who with much goodness promised to return to Zion, granting happiness to her children, who grants joy to loving companions, as was granted the first man and woman in the Garden of Eden, who created joy and gladness, bride and groom, pleasure, song, delight, laughter, love and harmony, peace and companionship.